Joining the Observer on the air live couldn't be easier. First, visit bit.ly/obguest. Once you click on that, you'll wind up on this screen. Then, you'll have to choose the webcam that you want to use. You can see there's a list of them here. And once you choose the right webcam, you'll then have to choose the microphone that you want to use. It's all very simple. Then type in your name where it says your name here. And once you have finished typing your name, click the join button. Then you'll be in the queue to be on the air. It's that easy. Hi again, everybody. It's Kevin Canessa coming to you from the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com on this, the 5th day of June in the year 2024. Sure hope you're enjoying your Wednesday. No matter where it is you are in the country, here in the Northeast, it's a little gray out there today, but it's still nice and warm, so hope you're enjoying and taking advantage of the warm weather. And as we have done traditionally on the day after Election Day, when, of course, it was primary election day yesterday, I join you so that we can kind of break things down a little bit about what happened last night. And last night, of course, there was really only one contested race in the town of Kearny, and that was in the 3rd Ward, where there was a seat nomination up for grabs in the Democratic Party. And Fred Steeves won that election with 334 votes to the current sitting councilman Renato da Silva's 262 votes. That is a total of 596 votes cast. And let me just say something about that alone. That is a very, very skimpy number of people to vote in a primary. 596 votes only. In the last 3rd Ward Democratic primary, which was 3 years ago, Carol Jean Doyle won her election with exactly the same number of votes, 596. And there were an additional 300 votes that were also cast. So you just got to keep that in mind, that the turnout, as our friend Carol Manley said in the chat room just there, was terrible. And it really was. And especially for a race that has the implications that this one does. Because we have people, who were seeking the office for a seat that was once occupied by the mayor. And unfortunately, not even 600 people in a ward that is much bigger than that showed up. And now, those are the breaks sometimes. This is a primary where otherwise there weren't too many opportunities for people to vote decisively. What I mean by that is there was a race for the United States Senate where Congressman Andy Kim won pretty easily. That was almost a foregone conclusion. And for those who live in the 8th Congressional District, there was a pretty heated race between Rob Menendez, the son of U.S. Senator Robert Menendez, who was, of course, under indictment, and Ravi Bala, who is the mayor of Hoboken. And also there was another candidate whose last name is JC. I want to say his first name was Kyle, but I don't want to say that with 100% certainty. But that is a race that Menendez wound up winning pretty handily. So there wasn't so much, for Democrats at least, that much of an incentive to get out and vote other than this 3rd Ward race. So I guess you have to expect that. Now, come November, it's a completely different story because there will be a big race, which we'll get to in a bit, between Fred Steeves and George Santos, who is the Republican nominee and who owns several laundromats in the town of Kearny and is very involved. He's also instrumental with the school uniform exchange. We'll save a lot of that for the race when the fall comes by. But Again, the disappointment, I think, is that only 596 people cast a vote in the Democratic primary last night, yesterday, in that election. Now, Fred, the winner, is on the screen. You can see him right there. He is with Councilwoman Mary Trine DeCastro, Councilman Jerry Facito, and Mayor Carol Jean Doyle. They were at the American Legion last night taking in the results, and the three of them, other than Fred, which is Mary Trine, Jerry, and Carol Jean, all were out in support of Fred Estes. The other picture that you see there on the screen has Renato da Silva on the right-hand side, and there are some other political figures who are in that picture as well. That's Councilman George Zapata. I'm only going to go over the elected officials here. School Board Trustee Laura Cifelli Pettigrew, Councilman Status Theodoropoulos, and former Councilwoman Susan McCurry. And then right next to Laura Cifelli Pettigrew is former Mayor Al Santos. This was I believe, trivia night at the American Legion a couple of months ago. But the people who you see sitting at that table are the ones who went out in support of Councilman Renato da Silva, which is very interesting when you think about it, because this is the second year in a row that the people that this group supported lost. And I don't think it takes a fool to know that in the town of Kearny, there has been a lot of consternation on the town council. There's been a lot of bickering. There's been a lot of yelling and screaming at the council meetings. And it makes you wonder, after first losing the mayor's seat last November, and now losing this primary, whether it will shake things up a little bit. We presumed that there might be a little bit of a wake-up after the election in 2023 in November, but that just didn't happen. In fact, if anything, it got more contentious until now. So now you wonder what happens next. Renato da Silva, who is on the screen, was appointed to the 3rd Ward Council seat by the county committee with the support of the people you see in that picture. And that was against the wishes of the mayor, who you see in the other picture, with Jerry and Mary Trine and Fred. Fred was one of the potential candidates to take the seat. Now, here we are. It's the 5th day of June. The election is not until November, 5 months from now. And Councilman da Silva is what you call in the political world a lame duck. I hate that word, sort of, but it is the reality of the situation. That for 5 months there is a member of the Kearny Town Council now who is not going to be there with 100% certainty after the first week of November. Because since this is a special election, as soon as the votes are tallied and ultimately certified by the town clerk in Pat Carpenter, whoever becomes the victor in that election, whether it's Fred Estes, who you see on the screen, or George Santos, who is the Republican nominee, takes that seat the next day. So if on election day, let's say Pat is able to certify the results and there are not enough outstanding ballots that would sway the election one way or the other, whoever gets that seat is sworn in usually the next day, which was on a Wednesday in November. So I can only imagine what could potentially happen over the next 5 months when you have a councilman who has absolutely nothing to lose. It's a very, very rare opportunity that we have not seen in Kearny, and I don't even remember when the last time there was a lame duck. Actually, I take that back. The last time there was a lame duck was in 1999 when sitting mayor at the time, Peter McIntyre, was defeated by Al Santos, and he served for the next 5 months after that Actually, it was 7 months because he ultimately held office until January 1st of 2000. But as Carol Manley said in the chat room, hoping to finally see unity within our council members. That would be the greatest outcome imaginable if they could find some sort of unity now, because this bickering has to stop. These are people who were united a year ago. These are people who were friends in many cases 1 year ago. And now they're not. Now they're not. And so you kind of have to really wonder what will come of all of this. Because also you have to remember, whoever wins in November, whether it's Fred or George, that person is going to have to run again next year in 2025. Because in 2025, 5 seats are up for grabs. The seat that is currently occupied by Mary Trine DeCastro is up in 2025. The seat currently occupied by Richard Konopka is up for grabs in 2025. The seat that will be occupied by the victor in November's election will be up for grabs. And then also the seat that is currently occupied by Jerry Facito will be up for grabs. And so the question then becomes now, will we have another round of this nonsense with primaries again? Will there be 10 candidates? Will there be more than 10 candidates? Will there be candidates on the GOP side? Could we see a full slate there? But at that point, the Democrats are going to need to unite. And this is the time where it could possibly happen. It really should happen. And all this pettiness should go away. Because, again, for the second election in a row, the voters said we don't want that bickering. We don't want that consternation. We want unity. That is what they voted for in November. That is what they voted for now. And they rejected what we've called the static 6 for the second time in a row. While they are in the majority right now, if they want to stay among the majority, they're going to have to do something. Because whatever it is that they're doing now is just clearly not working. It isn't. So the question is, will George, will Laura, Status, Susan, Renato, Al Santos get together and say, all right, we got to stop this. We got to do something for the people of Kearny, because as Carol Manley said earlier, that was on the screen, it's about the residents and not about power, control, or personal gain. We need people who run for the right reasons. And that is not to say that Renato didn't run for the right reasons, because I believe he did. I think he ran for all the right reasons. But by voting for Fred, who was endorsed by the mayor, the residents of the 3rd Ward, albeit a very tiny slither of the total population, said, no, we don't want that. So we're going to vote you out. We're going to get you out of here. And that really means that somebody here has got to do something. And I don't just issue this challenge to the static 6. I wouldn't issue this as a challenge to just the static 6 either. Now is the time where Mayor Carol Jean Doyle, who has, I think, pretty much come to a realization that the majority of people in Kearny support what she's doing, and her people, she's also got to unite these people as well, as the Democratic chairwoman and as the sitting mayor. she's got to come out and she's got to find a way to bring both sides together. And that's important, too, in a presidential election, too, when you really think about it right now, when you know how much is at stake in November nationally. I want to get into a whole discussion about the race for president, but you know how important it is for parties to be united at this point in time. And that means that has to happen here in the town of Kearny as well. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens. And we'll know soon. We'll know within a week, the next time the Kearny Town Council has a meeting. Would it be absolutely unheard of for Mr. De Silva to resign and make way for Fred Esteves to take the seat to give him a better chance of winning in November? It wouldn't be unprecedented. I doubt it would happen, but it would be the right thing to do rather than serving in a lame duck capacity. It's certainly not something that has never happened before. Will we see that? I don't know. I don't know. But somehow, these folks need to get it together, because I got to be honest with you. I have gotten to the point where I don't even enjoy watching the council meetings anymore. I can't go to the meetings because I feel like I would leave with a migraine every single time there is a meeting. So my choice has been to view the meetings every alternating Tuesday or whenever the heck the meetings are using Zoom. And, of course, that's always an adventure, too, because sometimes the Zoom doesn't work right with the audio and the camera and all that. So I've gotten to the point personally where it's hard to even do that and sit there and watch these meetings, because at some point there's going to be some kind of surprise. Calls for transparency, and then throwing out these alternative resolutions that are not transparent at all. You know how many times that's happened? You hear some of them say, we want this governing body to be transparent. And then 5 minutes later say, I have a resolution that wasn't on the agenda meeting and I want to propose it for introduction. Happened just a couple of weeks ago. You can't have it both ways. You want to be transparent or you want to just be underhanded. I don't know. I just don't know what the direction of that is going to be. So it will be very, very interesting to see what happens in the next couple of weeks as we move along in the summer and get closer to November. But now's the time. Now is the time before it just gets completely unhealable. And I don't know. I just don't know if it's possible. I just don't know if it's possible when you see what has happened, whether any kind of healing can happen. But it isn't unprecedented either. It happened in 2000. There was a big, big, big split in the party. In fact, there were 3 candidates for mayor on the Democratic ticket in 1999. It was Ed Callahan, Pete McIntyre, and Al Santos. And then come January 1st, 2000, they got their acts together. Will it happen in 2024? We will soon find out. Just briefly, too, the Republican nominee, as I mentioned earlier, is a man by the name of George Santos. I should have got his picture up there. I'm sorry, George, that I didn't. George owns all the super laundromats in the town of Kearny that you see. He and his brother Danny work those together, own those together. And when I tell you, these 2 guys are active in the community, I kid you not. They have personally donated a lot of their time and their treasure to the school uniform exchange, which is highly successful and helps people who need to get school uniforms at a better rate than the original prices. And he's going to be tough. He's going to be tough. George is going to. This race between George Santos and Fred Esteves is not a given for either one of the candidates. It really isn't. And so it'll be very interesting. George cannot be taken lightly in November. It's been, oh boy, 28 years or 29 years since a Republican has had a third ward seat. I want to say the last one to have a seat was either Lillian Russell or Donnie McMillan in the late 90s, 97, 96, around there. But just to give you an idea, that's how long it's been since a Republican has held a seat in the third ward. But if ever there was a year where it's possible, I think this is the one. So the Democrats really need to get it together, and if they don't, it's going to be trouble for them. So we'll see what happens. Now, before I sign off, I want to say hello to a couple of people who are here in the chat room. Carol Manley is here watching from down the shore, hopefully having a nice day with Mom down the shore. Dylan Sullivan, who just completed his junior year at St. Peter's Prep, is also here with us, and he was out yesterday at the headquarters for Fred Esteves from a photograph. I texted with him last night. Dylan, thank you for sending me all that information over. Let's see who else is here. Rozo is here also, and my buddy Bill Scarterfield is watching us. I don't know if he's still here, out in Arizona, and he is healing nicely after having had surgery. So it's good to see Billy out and about and watching us today from out in Arizona. And to anybody else who may be here as well, I want to thank you all for joining us. We're going to have an interesting couple of months ahead. That's about the only thing I can guarantee. But we will keep an eye on this race, and when it gets closer to the election, we will be back in the saddle covering it. We really didn't cover this race, and part of that was because I didn't know what it was going to be like. So that'll do it. We will be back, of course, next week on Tuesday. There's not going to be a broadcast with Tony for a couple more weeks until my move is complete. But we will get back into the groove once I move back to Kearny on the 15th of June. And we'll be able to get back into, I have to set up my studio once we move. And then we'll get that done. And if anything breaks, of course, during the course of the next couple of days, I'll join you live no matter where. And we'll let you know about it. Dylan, thank you, buddy. Dylan is now going to be a senior at Prep, where I went 100,000 years ago. And he's a member of the class of 2025. He's a Boy Scout, and he's been very active in the town of Kearny for somebody his age. Look at this name. This is a name you are going to see in the future doing good things in this town. I can assure you of that. So from the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com, this is Kevin Canessa. I am signing off for now, and we hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Thank you for joining us today. And we will see you again later. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.